Hey everyone, thanks for listening. I just wanted to take a quick second and remind you that we are going to do what we're calling our big summer read, and we've chosen Stephen King's The Stand. It is a large book, but I do hope that you'll join us and let me know if you're going to read with us. We're wanting to do maybe a couple episodes throughout the summer to check in, but also we're wanting to do a culminating episode, and you never know if we've got people who have been reading with us. It'd be awesome to have you aboard on the episode with us. So if you're going to read with us, that'd be awesome. If you don't want to be on the show and you want to read with us, hey, let me know also so I can text you your thoughts and things like that. Anyways, Stephen King's The Stand this summer, big summer read for 2025. Hey kids, welcome back. We are continuing with a little bit of a theme of historical fiction. I'm just trying to get everybody primed up and ready for our month of Fraser that's coming up. We're going to go through Charles Fraser's books in the month of June. We're going to talk a couple times about the same book. We're going to talk about the movie Cold Mountain. We've even got someone that's going to come in and talk about the 13 Cherokee moons, and I'm excited about that because I don't really know anything about the moons. I just know that the moon we're in right now, I think, is the flower moon. I'm not really sure, but the month of Fraser is coming up, and I'm really excited. So to kind of prime everybody for that, we're having a little bit of a string of historical fiction here because Charles Fraser is a master of the historical fiction genre, I think, and I think it's fitting that we lead into that with these historical fiction. So this week, I'm really glad to have Jason Crockett back on with me. It's always a fun time to have him on. Sometimes we get into some really deep topics when we're discussing the novels that we've read together, and that's always fun to listen to and always fun to talk about. You know, I love being able to think deeply about these things and these questions that we have about some of the novels that we read. It's been a lot of fun. This week, we are talking about John Williams' Butcher's Crossing. This is, again, a historical fiction, a Western, if you will. And the topics that it dives into are pretty deep. I think there's a lot of topics about greed, about how much is enough, how much is too much, when to leave the table, when to be happy with what you have. It's also a journey into manhood. How much do we change as people? This hero's journey, this maturity that we go through, this initiation process that we go through. Do we turn into the people that we expect us to turn into? These visions that we all have, even as a person at this age right now, at the recording of this podcast, I'm 35 years old. Even at my age, I have a vision that I want to see myself in the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 5 months, the next 10 months. Do we become the people that we want to be, and the people that we become, are we satisfied with? These are some of the questions that Butcher's Crossing talks about. When I first started reading it, I'd heard a lot about Butcher's Crossing, a lot of good reviews. People talk about how this is maybe the most literary Western that you can find, and I was really excited to read it. And when I first started reading it, it seemed all too convenient the way things were happening, but man, John Williams really sets you up for a punch in the stomach, and we're going to talk about that as well, his craft, his structure, how he set up this novel. I think it's a good book. I really enjoyed it. It's right now nominee for one of my books of the year. We'll find out in January where it settles, but without keeping you waiting, the wonderful, excellent Jason Crockett joins us again, and we are talking about John Williams' Butcher's Crossing. What would you say Butcher's Crossing is about?
Butcher's Crossing follows Will Andrews, a Harvard dropout who ventures west in that great American quest of finding this country and its frontier before it's gone. And he gets drawn into an ambitious buffalo hunt by the obsessive Miller. And Will joins a small expedition deep into the Colorado wilderness. And as the men endure, brutal conditions, physical hardship, mounting tensions, Will gets forced to confront the harsh realities of, I really believe, of nature, but also of human obsession. Mm-hmm. And the writer's stark prose, I can't wait till we talk about that. It really paints a vivid, unflinching portrait of the American West, the ideal of the American dream, and what we want to be as American people. Young American people having our eyes opened and then, darkened by these experiences of what the real world and the real human heart is.
It's definitely a story about greed.
It is.
You were saying. I don't really know where to start. I know I'll just throw my thoughts here. I don't know if you have a certain spot you want to start with.
Well, why don't we start with your very first point here?
Okay. Do you think that he's the prodigal son?
Well, what do you think?
I think I was thinking about it from the beginning because he kept referring back to his dad in Boston, because he had left Harvard. And it seemed like his dad had agreed and given him this money to go on this adventure. And that's kind of at the beginning. So I thought that he would find some misfortune. I mean, you can't have a story without something bad going wrong. Mm-hmm. So I thought that he would probably have this misfortune and have this realization of, I probably should have not left what I was doing. Because he was a third-year Harvard student, which means he was on the door of graduating. Yeah. And I think it kind of leads you to believe that he dropped out. That's kind of how I took it.
That's what I took.
He dropped out. And so I thought that there would be this, I think that's where at the very beginning I thought the book was going, was that he would be this, that he would have this epiphany that I shouldn't have done this. I need to go back and apologize and repent. My dad will take me in. I kind of thought that that's where it was headed.
Absolutely. Prodigal Son, I think, is a great parallel. It's not the one that I was thinking of. I was thinking of, have you ever read Coleridge's Rime of the Ancient Mariner?
No, but I've heard of it.
It's a frame poem, too, where it starts out with a wedding, and the bride is on her way in, and all the wedding guests are going in. And you and I are with the wedding guest who gets stopped by this crazy-looking old man who reaches out and puts his hand on our chest, and all he says is, "There was a ship." And we are suddenly spellbound, and we have to hear his horrifying tale. And the young wedding guest interrupts the poem a couple of times by trying to wake himself up from this trance. And he's like, "Please just let me go to the wedding. Let me go." But the mariner has to tell you this horrible, awful story because you are living vicariously through his tragedy. And by the end, he finishes his tale, and the mariner gets up to leave. And the wedding guest gets up. He's sad. He's dull-eyed. He goes into the wedding. Everybody's partying, and he's just sad. And then he goes to bed, and it says he wakes up a sadder, wiser man the next morning. And so I felt like Andrews was the wedding guest who, you thought you were getting into this rosy-colored dream, but really you've had this awful, terrible voyage with these people, and your eyes have been opened to what it really means. And then you become the sadder, wiser man.
That's probably more of a parallel than Prodigal Son, though, because that's kind of what happened to him, right? He went on this journey thinking that he was going to just who was it? Walden that he was trying to chase after?
Yes.
It was just this beautiful poetry type thing, and then comes back, and he is kind of a dark person when he gets back.
Oh, yeah. I wrote that on your show notes here, too, that I felt like there was definitely a point there where he transformed. But the prodigal son goes through a transformation, too, right? He must.
Yeah.
So I don't think Prodigal Son's at all wrong. I think that's a really good one.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Well, I mean, we can stick with what we've got here about Francine.
Okay. You had a different take on it than I did because you had written on here that her lips had thickened and her eyes darkened. Mm-hmm. So Francine is a prostitute in the town of Butcher's Crossing, and the men are associating with her when Andrews first shows up, and they're talking about this buffalo hunt, and she and the other women in the saloon are associating with them. She goes and gets some drinks. But Schneider, really says some implicating things with her. But Andrews is the one that she's attracted to, and she offers to have him come up to her place. And while she's very attractive, he runs away from that moment of contact. So again, the line was, her lips had thickened and her eyes had darkened. This reminded you of the women vampires before feeding and seducing in Dracula.
Yeah. Do you know what part I'm talking about with that?
Yeah, absolutely do. And I didn't even think about Francine being a dark, seductive creature. I didn't think that there was anything malicious or troublesome with it. I thought, my take was that she genuinely liked him. And she didn't want to be a prostitute with him. She just wanted to invite him upstairs and be with this guy.
Yeah. Well, I guess, again, this was at the beginning, so we didn't really know. And literally all the characters are listed here.
Yeah.
There are, what, 5, 6 characters?
Right.
I didn't really know who she was. I guess I was just thinking of this prostitute, and she had seen that he had this money because she was involved in the meeting that Miller had. Well, I guess Andrews came and found them, and she was in that meeting and Andrews was like, "Yeah, I got the money. Don't worry about it. $600 to get all. Yeah, I got that. Don't worry about that." And so I guess to me, I thought she kept talking about how she was in her off season, you know. And so when she took him up there and I saw that was like the first thing I thought was, okay, she's going in for the money here. She's seducing him. And it really reminded me of that because, I mean, I don't know. When I read that, her lips had thickened, her eyes had darkened. You know,
I totally
it
get
sounded
that.
like we're getting into vampire mode here.
I totally get that. I liked Francine at the beginning, and it bothered me that Andrews was so finicky.
Oh, no, yeah.
But he's also young, naive, dumb, and if we're talking about the transformative process that this character undergoes, he is this young, dumb kid at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And it isn't until later that the experiences harden him and toughen him up and make him a sadder, wiser man, from my view. So it bothered me when he suddenly was like, "Oh, no," and had to run away. But he's also just a young and dumb kid who doesn't know how to handle being a man for himself or at all then.
I think my viewpoint from Francine really shifted really quick in that one scene because I thought that she was doing that, but then it was obvious that she really was just attracted to him. And I thought the reasons were kind of strange because she was talking about how soft his hands were. And I guess he was like untouched. You know, he was this, he wasn't like the other men there. Does that make sense?
That does sound kind of predatory, and it does kind of sound like Miller's view of this ideal plateau valley. If we can get up to there, it is this soft, untouched land. So that means Francine and Miller are kind of parallels in that way.
And Andrews is the buffalo hunt.
Yeah, right? Yeah. He's being hunted.
And I mean, she gets her hunt when they get back.
That's true.
And it wasn't what she thought it would be, I guess. I don't know.
Is she unfulfilled by it at the end?
I can't tell because I thought when he come back and first off, I didn't think she would be there.
Oh,
and then she was there, and they got together and consummated and did all that stuff. I thought, okay, this is going to be kind of where this ends. They're both going to stay together, and they just never really. They just were kind of there, you know.
So is this a novel about fulfillment? Is this a novel about chasing after that ideal, soft, perfect thing, that Eden, and can it be achieved?
I think it's like this idea, maybe these ideas that we have that we've sat on and romanticized about, maybe they're not going to be what we always think that they're going to be, you know, because Miller, the hunt turned out to be what he wanted it to be. At first, because the herd was, and you and I both talked about, I didn't think the herd would be there, to be honest with you. The herd was there. There was a big bounty. He had the biggest take he ever had. That's where the greed come in. And then it didn't work out. It wasn't what he thought it would be. He ultimately had nothing to show from it. The same with Francine. She thought, okay, I've got this young man, untouched, unspoiled. This is going to be easy for me. And that didn't end up like she thought it would. And then also with Andrews, he thought, okay, I'm going to go out, view the country. It's going to be beautiful, poetic. And
untouched.
It was the opposite of that. It was harsh and brutal. Yeah. And so I guess that's the parallels between all those is we thought that this would be this ideal situation, and I got what I wanted, but it wasn't what I wanted.
Does that apply? I wonder, does that apply to any of the other characters?
Well, I don't think Charlie Hoge wanted to go, because he said at first when Miller was like, we're going back to Colorado, he was like, I'm not going with you guys because he had lost his hand there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And
I kept forgetting
that.
And
I think that he was afraid that was going to happen again. I think that's why he ultimately kind of lost it in the snowstorm.
Yeah.
Because I thought he
was already broken once before, but now he's really broken.
Yeah. Yeah.
Schneider and Charlie Hoge and was there another person that I'm thinking of? Oh, there was McDonald who was in the town. So I don't know that they have this big transformative vision into experience like the other three characters you've just run down. So maybe in that way, Miller, Andrews, and Francine are kind of like our three main characters.
I think that they are, yeah.
Even though Francine's only there briefly in the beginning and at the end.
Yeah. I mean, Charlie Hoge to an extent has the view, and this is very brief, when Andrews mentions that he's the son of a minister, and he kind of perks up and he's like, well, what's your favorite Bible verse?
Oh,
like,
yeah. Right.
And then he's kind of like, I don't have an idea. And Charlie Hoge gets really upset at that. So there was like this brief situation for Charlie Hoge that happened. But man, I don't know. Thinking of Schneider, I don't know.
You were really bothered by Schneider a lot more than I was.
Yeah. I guess from the beginning, that's what I'd put there. I didn't really trust him because of the way that he was presented throughout the writing, because he was always by himself. That's when he goes in there and they're starting to make their plans, he was last in the room. And Williams talks about how he specifically waited for the rest to get in there. And I kind of thought that was strange because I didn't think he was doing it out of manners, Whenever they would ride together, they would be in the triangle, but then every now and then Miller and Andrews would kind of get together and Schneider would just be off on his own, especially when they were going through the part where they couldn't find any water. Schneider would be like way off from the group by himself. And it made me have a hard time trusting him. He was always negative, which I think he was the realist. I think he was the voice of reason. And I kind of thought that was ironic, to be honest with you, a little bit. He was the voice of reason. And I kind of lost my train of thought.
But he was also one of the cruder ones, too.
Like that's what I was going to say. Yeah, I felt like that you and I were talking about how he was ribbing the rookie, but I didn't look at it that way. I thought that he saw, like you were talking about with Francine, predator-prey type of situation. Andrews is young. He's new on the hunt. And I think that Schneider was trying to attack him more. I found this vulnerability from him, this weak spot, and I'm going to expose that.
Gotcha. Yeah. I had written on here, you had asked about Charley. Is Charlie Hoge not changing because he's the most pure? Wow, I did not think of it that way. I got the impression that Charley, he read to me like a naive, blind, kind of born-again Christian who had this experience, and now he's definitely into the book of the Bible and, well, what's your favorite passage, like you said? But I don't know that he's really wrapped himself or grounded himself in the role of being a Christian. And what was it? Yeah, deep into reciting Scripture, but blind or naive about the practice of it.
Yeah.
I also just got the impression that he was like one of the older ones in the group, and so I don't know that he was really tethered to the ground, that he was really tethered to the experience of the hunt. He was going along with it because Miller said, no, you're going along with it.
Which I thought that was an odd relationship because they weren't father and son.
No.
But Miller was almost like his caretaker.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was strange because whenever he said he wasn't going, I think Miller told Andrews he's going to go. You just got to wait for him to go.
And even at the very end, which not to give away spoilers or anything, but even at the very end, Charlie Hoge follows after him. Like still, he just like a puppy needs to follow after him.
That's what I was about to say. So maybe he's more childlike.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess gets to me that more of that purity type thing. Innocent, Charlie Hoge is an innocent character. I mean, okay, he seems to be needing to be taken care of like a child. B, he's new to his faith, which, they don't know the ins and outs. But, I mean, when you meet someone who's new to their faith, they're pretty fired up about it. There's like an innocence to it. They're not really scorned by this. Some of us who have lived it a lifetime, and we do have these, I don't want to say we're jaded by our faith, but maybe to an extent we are. We have these soft spots that
toughened up by it.
Yeah. I guess maybe he was like an innocent character.
You get these archetypal characters, and one of them is the fool. And Charley Hoge kind of reads like the fool.
I think so. Yeah, I can see that.
And like he's a fool for going along with it. He's a fool for always doing what Miller says. He was a fool for going up into that high valley the first time because he lost his hand. He's a fool in a way about his religion because just because you can recite scripture doesn't mean that you understand the practice of it. And he's a fool for following him back into the high valley because he's really broken, like mentally, emotionally broken by that experience. And well, by the very end, he's a fool for following after him yet again. Schneider, I didn't feel like was such a fool.
Yeah,
in a way, so. I guess they're all fools.
Yeah.
But I don't know that he felt like the fool to me because he was clearer about what was going to happen and the dangers of it. And he was the negative Nancy about things too. Yeah. But he's not wrong. Like, you're going to get us killed. You're going to get us killed. Okay, well, I'm going to go along with it, but you're going to get us killed.
When he would say stuff like that, it had gotten to the point where I didn't like him, and I would just be like, "Oh man, he's right." I was like, dang, he's right about this too.
But what about it's like Brutus and Julius Caesar, where he doesn't get emotionally people's needs or attitudes or wants, but Brutus is not wrong. And I think there's so many people that are like that in our experience, where it's like, oh God, they're complaining again,
right.
But they're not wrong. So I wonder what kind of and Andrews is also the young fool who has to have his eyes opened up.
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of archetype Miller is then. You got all your different kind of characters.
I mean, he's almost a fool himself, you know, because he goes out there. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I know we're kind of hopping around here, but I did feel like when the snowstorm came, he was pumped. Like,
oh yeah.
I thought that this is what I was made to do, And then in the movie, he's not really portrayed that way. When the snowstorm comes, he becomes, I think, more evil in the movie. But to me, in the book, he almost kind of turned into like a caretaker type thing because he was going out hunting. He was making sure he was just living it up. Not that he necessarily. Like Schneider, I think that they had kind of split once the snowstorm had come, but he was definitely looking out for Andrews. I think he had formed some type of relationship with Andrews, and then he doubled down on taking care of Charley Hoge when the snowstorm came because I think he realized this is what he was trying to avoid, and here we are again. But I don't know.
I just kind of got the impression from Miller. I didn't know what to think of him at all at first. And then once they were on the trip, it was like, or once they were getting ready to go on the trip, it was like, oh, he's going to pay for it. Yeah, I've got it all covered. I can figure everything out. And once they're on the trip, no, I know my way.
There's water right over there.
There's somewhere. I've just lost my way. I've not been here in several years. But he was like so dead sure. And during the voyage up into the high valley, he goes through a transformative experience himself with some of his descriptions. And by the time that he starts the buffalo hunt and starts the stand and he's killing them left and right, that obsession really manifests. And he is minute after minute after minute killing them. And we're not leaving until I've killed every one of them. He is here to clean it out. And I think he also knows they're going to get trapped up here by the weather. But he also isn't bothered by it. We can weather it. It's fine. And so he's not going to bring it up that we're not going to leave in time. He's not going to even cater to it. Don't even give Schneider a reason to worry about it. We're going to get trapped up here. It's fine.
Yeah.
And then when they are trapped, it's fine. I know how to survive. I'll find us food. We're going to stay up here. He is so – I had written down that on page 159. What was it he had said? Page 159. Miller is devolving or reverting into a beast.
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah. I think that so you were talking about him getting transformed when he hit the pass. It was almost like he had gotten confirmed what he was looking for.
Yeah.
And that's where he really took hold of the trip. Like the authority was all with me because you were talking about the greed taking over. Remember when Schneider come up to him and was like, hey, you need to, I can't can't cut this many buff, you know. And he said, you will go skin these or I will shoot you. Because I remember reading that thinking, man, you're knee deep in this right now. You're really wading through it. Yeah, he did transform into this out of control person. Yeah.
And then on their way back, I also felt like he was just rationalizing. Oh, we're going to be fine. We're going to come back for all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And the crossing of the river and having lost, God, I lost everything.
Oh, God, man, it was so bad.
I think that and coming back into Butcher's Crossing and finding how it is by the end broke Miller.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think with Schneider we were talking about these characters and like I guess expectations versus reality almost? Schneider, I think, thought he had a pretty good deal, didn't he? When he said, "I'm going to get $60 a month,
$60 a day."
Yeah, and when he kind of resigned to the fact that we're stuck here, he was like, "Well, I mean, I'm still going to get paid, and you're not," you know?
Right.
But then he got killed, and he didn't get to see any of that. So I guess in a sense, you could almost put him in that category too.
Well, even Miller was laughing at him about it, saying, like, now that we're getting to leave, don't you wish you had taken in for a share of it instead of your $60 a month? And he's like, I'm fine with my 60. He's like, no, let's do the math. What would your share have been? It's like, what a jerky thing to have to like play up for him. But ultimately, he was going to lose everything too. But Miller lost everything. Andrews lost everything. Like they all lost everything.
Charley Hoge lost everything. I mean, he was despondent.
He lost his mind.
Yeah.
There was something else about that too. He devolving into an animal. Like he doesn't even really speak when they get back into Butcher's Crossing. He becomes so isolated. He even just goes into the room. He and Charley Hoge, he's going to take care of him and give him his bath. But he really doesn't speak or have anything to do. And his final act, God, I don't want to ruin it. Should I say it? What he does to the town?
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. When he burns down the Buffalo office there and threatens to burn down the entire town, he is like setting himself on fire, getting these buffalo skins and just throwing them and throwing
and killing his horse.
And killing his horse.
Yeah.
Like he's scalding himself. He doesn't have anything to say. He doesn't have anything to contribute. He's just venting because everything's lost. And it's in a way like he's burning himself. And then he rides off into the sunset.
Yeah. Gotta love a Western. I think one thing we're really forgetting to talk about, though, is the search for water, the trip there. Okay, so I thought that everything was going good. Even that part, I don't want to skip this part, but even they were looking for water and they eventually came across it, you know, and it was all these check marks of yes. This happened. Miller was lost. Let's be honest. Miller was lost and he found it, and they couldn't find water and they found it. And the buffalo, he found his place, but he also found his buffalo. They were all there like he said they would be. So that was good. He killed them all. That was good. The blizzard hit. But then they survived it, right? Charley Hoge is good. Miller's good. Schneider's good. Yeah, they were a little, I think the back of the book says they had cabin fever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were all kind of out of it. But I think we had this, I had gotten to the point where I thought, so the consequence is not going to come until they get to town, something from there. Because when you read the back of the book, it says when they arrived back, the town had completely changed, you know.
I didn't read the back of the book, so I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know what to expect from the end.
So that's where I thought, okay, everything's gone well. I know that the town's going to be changed. And I was thinking for the better. Like we're going to arrive back. It's going to be this bustling metropolis. Time has passed us by. We are irrelevant. I thought the buffalo hides would be irrelevant, but not to the extent that they were. But I thought like everything we've done and worked for is going to be irrelevant because time has passed us by. And so when that log was coming down the river, and I think that's why for me, I don't know that I've ever felt so punched in the stomach reading something.
Right.
I was just like, oh no, oxen, wagon, everything, and they're just sitting there watching it go. And then Schneider gets killed as well.
Utter loss. I didn't know what to expect from the ending, and so when they were coming back and met to the river, the description of it being such a high river that you could hear it from so far away, and you know it's dangerous water, I immediately thought, okay, there's a problem here. For me, I was much more focused on Andrew's transformation because he was the young, naive guy who had left town, who had left Harvard, come here looking for the great American West. And he's been warned, don't go with these guys. McDonald tells him, don't go with these guys, but he does it anyway.
Which I thought was McDonald just being kooky, to be
At
honest
first,
with you.
yeah. But then we've also lost our way. And no, I know where I'm going. They come across that family.
Oh, yeah.
And they warn the family, don't go that way. You should just go this way. But the family ignores them, and he makes the comment, they're dead. Mm-hmm. And I thought that's another warning sign right there. We don't just drop scenes like that in there for fun. Yeah. Williams is telling us that's them. And
that Miller realized how bad of a spot we're in. Yeah.
And we finally do find water just inches before death. I kept finding, okay, we're tearing away Andrews layer by layer by layer. And when the first snowflakes started falling and they're up in the high valley, I also got a little bit winded there because I thought, oh no, there's no way they get back from this. Yeah. And even Andrews just trying to wrap his head around the enormity of what 6 months stranded in this mountain zone means for us. His killing of the cleaning of the first buffalo, he was drenched in blood and gore trying to take the guts out of it. And he tried to clean himself in the ice cold water as best as he could, but he couldn't quite get rid of everything, right? What a metaphor there that you're stained by this experience. No amount of cleaning is ever going to get rid of it. So they finally leave the valley, make it back to this river. Andrews dunks himself in the river, and he holds on and just lets the river kind of carry him.
Yeah.
And so he's being cleaned. I thought, oh my gosh, what a baptism that experience can be lifted away from you. He's not going to be the same naive young boy coming out of the river, but what a scene of baptism and cleanliness. And he hadn't had a shower or anything, since leaving.
Filthy.
They were filthy. So he hadn't even been cleaned since that spring water on the night that he cleaned that first buffalo. So in 6 months, this is your first cleaning. And then he even sits on the rocks afterward, kind of sunning himself. And I thought, okay, there's goodness. Only for that log to come down the river and just take everything away. Yeah. What an absolute punch to the head.
It was bad.
Yeah.
I remember I got sick to my stomach reading it.
Yeah.
Because I thought all of this work, all the trip there, everything is gone. You have nothing to show for it. And they can't go back.
No.
Because the wagon's gone.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm naive as a reader, and just in good writing, I just get caught up with the storytelling, which I think you should in a way, right?
Yeah.
Stephen King says you should just fall through the page into it. But maybe I should have seen that coming. But then the log coming down, I just thought, oh, no.
Yeah. Well, I felt that same way too, because I thought when it happened, you had to sit there and digest it, Yeah. And I kind of thought, why did I not see this coming? Because everything had worked out. It had not been good, but everything had worked out. So I thought when the water was, you were talking about how they said the river was high and it was, and I thought, yeah, but this is how everything's been so far. A little challenge, we'll get through it.
Yeah.
And then it was, it was bad.
I think you phrased it in the perfect way. Why didn't I see this coming? And that's Andrews, that's us as the reader, that's all of this. That's the point of literature. That's the point of the human experience, that we keep telling these stories. Why didn't I see this coming? Because we as humans only see so much. We only see so far.
Yeah.
I was reminded of an experience. I'm going to tell the nice version of it real quick. I was trying to communicate to my students after the senators in Julius Caesar stabbed Caesar, and they just stand there looking at the enormity of what they've done. And this is what they wanted, and they're, in a way, happy that the tyrant is dead, but here's this guy that we've all known our entire lives. We're literally standing here with his blood on our togas, and we don't know what to say. How do you address this? And I told the kids, it's one thing to watch movies where bang, 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 we shoot the bad guys and everything, but we just become so desensitized to that, that the enormity of the death of another person just sucker punches you.
Yeah.
And as seventh graders, a friend of mine, my best friend at the time, he and I would go walking down our rural road and just go spend hours walking down the road and hiking in the woods. And we brought his dog, Lady. And Lady was the bestest girl. And she was this grown yellow lab, good girl. And on one of these hikes, I got to, where's Lady? I don't see Lady. And she was across, through the woods, across the road. And so we called to her, Lady, come here. And she started running, and that's when I heard the car coming down the road. And just like seeing that log come down the river, no amount of screaming, no, is going to stop this from happening. And why didn't I see that happening? Why didn't we have her on the leash? Why didn't we think, she could get out on the road? Because if you had asked us in a textbook what might happen, we can answer that. But common sense, we just didn't have it at the time. We as humans are sometimes blind to that.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the hindsight's 2020 type thing too, because you think, I think Andrews probably thought, okay, this was tough and everything, but we've made it. We've made it this far and it's going to work out. And the decision I've made is ultimately a good one. But there's every decision we make, there's always the flip side of that decision,
But the experience also injured Charley Hoge before because he lost his hand.
Yeah.
And still, we went back. Now, so much of the buffalo have been killed, and we've had a terrible experience, yada, yada, yada. If Miller had not had his breakdown next season, would Miller have entertained the thought of going back?
I don't know. Because, they ended up actually not killing all the buffalo, right? Because they ran over the hill.
And the market tanks, and so it's not even a viable thing. But let's say that hadn't happened. We've gone through this horrible thing. We've lost everything.
To go back and get the hides?
Would we go back?
I think so. I think Miller would, don't you?
Then Miller's not learned anything from the experience.
He's obsessed with it.
And even at the end, he just burns everything to the ground and rides off in the sunset. But I don't know that he's learned anything.
Well, he even goes to McDonald and says, you're going to pay me my money. And McDonald even says, I would if I could. But, man, what about, though, you talk about punch to the gut. What about with McDonald said, if you had been here when you said you would have been here, you would have made your money. I was like, why did you have to say that?
Yeah. They would have gotten away with being rich people.
Yeah. That just goes into the whole greed. We're getting a little ahead, but that was just, it's such a story of greed, of just, let me get a little bit more. Let me get a little bit more. Let me have a little bit more. And if Schneider kept saying, okay, now's a good time to go. Now's a good time to go, and if they would have just left just a day earlier, they would have gotten over the pass and through in the snow. They could have probably made it back. They wouldn't have been. That's ultimately what trapped them, is they were cut off from the rest of the world,
right,
because of the pass. So, just not being satisfied with what you have, just taking that little bit more, But God, here's our big question.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're Miller, do you leave? If you're Andrews, do you leave? Because remember, Schneider asked Andrews, do you want to go? And Andrews says, he's gotten us this far.
Oh, right. Oh, 100%. I was on board with Schneider. We leave now. But that's Jason Crockett also being the negative, who's not wrong. Here he goes complaining again, but he's not wrong. No, 100%. If I were Andrews, I would have been like, yeah, it's way time to leave.
I think I would have probably sided with Miller just because of me as a reader, I didn't trust Schneider. And B, I kind of agreed with Andrews. It was like, well, he's been right so far, and this is a lot of money, I'm such a good person.
No, that's not. In a shock to nobody in my family, here's Jason complaining about the American experience again. You said that this is really a story about greed, and I 100% think you're right. My constant go-to in this book was that, well, there we are as Americans. Yeah. That's what we've done.
Yeah.
Andrews comes here looking for the ideal American West, but look what we've done to it. Here these Americans get to that Eden that's waiting for them in the mountains, and it is like the most perfect, beautiful vista. It took so much to get there. But as soon as they set foot in the area, they start spoiling it by cutting down the trees to make their corral and then killing the buffalo. I mean, slaughtering, massacring this dream. And all they leave behind is just stacks of death, only to get
literally
through the river.
Waste.
Yeah.
Because they didn't even eat I mean, they ate some of the meat, but most of
Right.
it was left behind. And I think that was something that McDonald said, if you'd have brought back the meat, we could have sold the meat.
Right.
Yeah.
Part of me wonders if this isn't Williams in some way writing some sort of, I don't want to say condemnation, but maybe a judgment about the American experience, that we've had this ideal romanticized vision of the West, but what have we really done with our experience? Mm-hmm. And so much of the American dream is not ethical. The American dream is financial, that anybody can get rich. Anybody can get elected president. Anybody can. Well, that's financial. That's not about being the best kind of human being. Mm-hmm. So maybe the American dream comes at the expense of all of these other romantic, better things.
It kind of reminds me of Dennis Johnson's novella Train Dreams that I read. It was the one that I told you I'd found at McKay's that I had been wanting to read for a while. And he was talking about they had built this bridge for this train, and it was talking about how big this bridge was. And they're in the Pacific Northwest. But then the narrator is like, well, there's a bridge just up farther, a little bit north, that is even bigger than this. And he talks about the deforestation that they had done, but he's also talking about the human accomplishment that had been done to that. And it kind of got me thinking about how we're wrapped up right now in this time. So for them, they were wrapped up in this human accomplishment of tackling the West, reaping the bounty of that, making the money off. Look at all these buffalo. I mean, you think always of that picture of the guy with all the buffalo skulls that is so unimaginably tall. And so and that was like, look at this hunt. Look at this accomplishment we as humans have made. And then now we look back and we're like, you decimated an entire population. I forgot how many buffalo they said were there, like 60 million, I think, was the population. And now we're at, I think I saw the other day, I think we're at 15 or 30,000, somewhere around there, which is insane to think about, So now we're like, you were not responsible with what you were given. It's there for a purpose. It is there to be hunted, but you were not responsible with that, Right. And then you think about in the Train Dreams, I was thinking, well, yeah, at the time they were not thinking about deforestation or natural resources or anything like that. They were thinking, look at our accomplishment. Look at what we as humans have been able to achieve, which made me think about the tech world today, because it's so unregulated, really.
Yeah.
And they're fighting so hard to keep that from happening. And they're like, look at AI, look at all this human accomplishment that we've accomplished. Look at the data sharing and all of these things that we've accomplished through technology. And I thought, are we in 20 or 30 years going to look back and say, look at the damage you've left behind you from all of this unethical things that you thought was. So I don't know. It kind of reminds me of all that, how we should be more aware and introspective. Yeah, accomplishment is great. I love accomplishing things. But what are we sacrificing to get there? We obviously can't. That goes into that story you were saying, right? In a small way, I want my dog over here with me, and I can accomplish that, but I didn't really see the flip side of that.
Yeah.
I wanted to get my buffalo hides back, but I didn't think about this river. Maybe we should have waited here a day or two, It goes into being patient and waiting it out and things like that. So we see the accomplishment and what it takes to get there, but how often do we sit there and think about, okay, what's on the flip side of this? What could go wrong, Because I think especially us as Americans, we don't want to think about what's going wrong. We just want to think about what's going right.
Right. But find me a successful piece of literature that celebrates the success of the American dream and does not call it into question. Gatsby calls it into question. Arthur Miller's play, Death of a Salesman, calls it into question. August Wilson's play, Fences, that you're going to read, calls it into question. Find me a work of literature that is a successful, well-received, published work that celebrates the American dream and doesn't call it into question and say, maybe we're not doing it right. I'm excited about space. I'm always excited about space. And I love that humans finally set foot on the moon. And sometimes when I'm pumping gas, I'll look up at the moon and just think how bizarre it is that that's a world that we have stood upon and that we've left icons and relics on. And part of me is excited about the first manned mission to Mars and finally putting human boots onto Mars. But I also know that the first building they build is going to be a Dollar General at an intersection, and it's going to be the trashiest intersection. And it's like, that's the American experience. That's what we've done. You talk about the 60 million buffalo that have been disappeared. Think about the indigenous cultures that we have eradicated. And the manifest destiny, it comes at a cost. And really, has it been... I don't want to say that America is not a great place to live. It is. And I don't want to take back the country that we have. I love all 50 states. I love the ideal of the Americas. But we're not without sin. And sometimes it really bothers me that we have inherited this Eden, or we've wrested away this Eden, only to trash it up, only to do what with it? It bothers me to talk about things like Tornado Alley shifting. My aunt lives in Oklahoma, and my mom was talking to me the other day about how even she's on board with how Oklahoma's not the Tornado Alley anymore, and now it's shifted to even into Tennessee. And I'm like, that's right. Yeah. Climate has changed. But to say those words triggers people, and it's like, if we want to be good stewards of this country, if we want to be good stewards of this earth, this paradise that we've been given, you're not going to find it any better on Mars. I want to stand on Mars, but you're not going to find it any better elsewhere. This planet is that high valley. This country is that high valley, and we've eradicated the buffalo. And what else have we eradicated and not been good stewards of? So maybe we are like Andrews and Miller and Schneider. Some of us have had our eyes opened and we're sadder, wiser people, and some of us just want to set fire to things and maybe try it again.
It reminds me, which I'm not a huge Neil deGrasse Tyson fan, but it does remind me of a video I saw of him where he was talking about how Elon Musk had talked about terraforming Mars, that's kind of his goal. And Neil deGrasse Tyson was like, well, why would you not take care of the Earth you have right now? We can take care of it. We have an Earth. We don't need to create one.
Right.
We have one. So why are we not taking care of that right now?
Right. I'm going to reserve saying anything about Elon Musk right now.
You didn't like Andrews, I think, at the first.
I didn't.
Well, how did you finish with him?
Well, just because I've said it a billion times now, goes through that transformative experience. I appreciate that he's grown up. I appreciate that those scales have been dropped away from his eyes. And there is this quote that I'm going to butcher now in Butcher's Crossing. There's this quote that said, "Youth ages, drunkenness can be sobered, but stupid lasts forever." And boy, that's 100% the truth, that youth ages, ignorance can be educated, and drunkenness can be sobered, but stupid lasts forever. And Andrews is educated. Andrews is sobered up from this ugly dream, and his youth, his naivete drops away, is forced to grow up. And he's not stupid forever after because of it. He grows from his experience, and that's a very human thing to do. So I can appreciate that. We're teachers of young kids. We're teachers of teenagers. And it's one of the most wonderful jobs in the world. It's also one of the most frustrating things when you're surrounded by these teenagers who think they know everything, who are immature, who whatever, and they can really get on your last nerves. Well, that's Andrews, too, making some pretty foolish decisions, dropping out of Harvard, burning your cash on a trip you should not have taken, and following this guy who's leading you down on a death trip. So it makes me want to yell and scream at him over and over and over. But through his baptism and through his cleansing and through the hardships and everything, I appreciate Andrews so much more by the end. If he had never learned from any of his experiences, I still would not have liked him if he had not learned from his experiences.
He's like a dark person, I feel like, when he gets back, though, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And even to bring it back to Francine, I don't think that they could have had their consummation at the end if he hadn't.
No. Well, that's what I was thinking about. I thought that maybe you disagree. Maybe it's simplistic that I think about it, but I kind of thought it was a good thing that Williams did of marking his character, because he had the sexual interaction with her before that was denied, and then he comes to her, and that's the first thing he does when he goes to her is he has sex with her. And so I think that was like, we have two benchmarks here to mark a character change, right? We've got the first interaction, and then we've got the last interaction. All of this has happened in the middle. I've come back on the other side, like you've been talking about. I've come to the other side of this river, and the first thing I do is seek out Francine so I can do what I didn't do to begin with. And I don't know, I kind of thought that was a neat way in a sense. Maybe it's simplistic now that I think about it, but we had these two obvious benchmarks to say, here's where he was and here's where he ended, you know?
I don't think that's simplistic at all. I also didn't know whether he was going to find Francine there when they got back. Yeah. And he goes through another ritual of cleaning. He takes the bath. And so there's another moment of like stripping away the filth from the experience. And then that night goes to find Francine. I don't know that I was expecting it to be, is he trying to find redemption by being with her that night and so many nights afterward? Or is he like, this experience has been so awful for him that maybe he's trying to find something in staying all these nights with her and having all these encounters with her that maybe brings some humanity, some of the former goodness back to him. I don't know that that's really what he's going through, but it's like almost on some lizard level of his brain. He's still looking for goodness, or he's trying to find some way to get back to good.
Yeah. I kind of thought that the way I read it was he got back and found Francine, and, you know, they got together, and it wasn't really what he thought it would be. And so they continued. I mean, he stayed in her room, I think it said 3, 4, 5 days, something like that. And I thought that he was staying around, like you said, trying to see, you know, the relationship would have been different if they would have had sex the first time. They would have been, I think they would have been bonded there. And then he comes back a different man, and it just doesn't work out, you know? And I think to me, he kept digging for that. Like, that relationship is still here because why else would he leave? He just leaves her, you know? Why else would he just leave her? I think that he stayed in Butcher's Crossing thinking that he still had something there with her. And I think he had to come to terms with this is not here. I have to leave, and that's why he ultimately left.
See, I wouldn't have thought that there would have even been the bond with them if he had managed to have sex with her at first, because he was so scared from it, and I feel like there was something immature, something that he couldn't even be man enough about. Like, I don't know, that just sounds really cruel. I feel like he could not have achieved that at first. And if they had sex that first time before going out on the buffalo hunt, I feel like he might have never wanted to be touched by a woman ever again. Like, he might have been so scared by the experience.
I almost think, though, he's so innocent and stuff to begin with, that they would have done that at the beginning before the trip, that he would have been connected to her, you know? I mean, you're talking about our students. How many students do we see get latched on to people like that?
Oh, gosh, yes.
And so I think, to me, that he was not a man before that, but he was a man when he got back. And not saying that that's like definition of manhood. Right. But what I mean is he was very innocent here, and I think if this would have happened, I'm connected, I'm bonded with this person, and we're clinging together. Where when he comes back, he's jaded, he's dark, he's upset, he's experienced these things. He's not the same person, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I think that's why it ultimately didn't work out, because I don't know.
I just keep thinking of the image of him losing. That's what it was that made him the man, is losing the innocence and the naivete. And here he is in this room, all of these encounters he continues to have with her over 3 to 4 days. I just keep getting the image of him trying to flick on a light switch and turn the light on in the room. But every time you flick the light switch, it's not turning on the light, like the power's out. And he's just going to keep switch, switch, not turning on, switch, still not turning on. He's looking for something, but this interaction is not activating it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think so. I think he was definitely searching for something there.
There was a line on 248 when he said, "When you ruin yourself, you ruin us too." There was this whole loss of everything. The whole consequence of this trip was not just about finding buffalo hides, and you're just risking the loss of everything good, I feel like, that could be found. I feel like there's plenty of natural goodness to be found in that high valley, and there's some sort of ideal that we hope to be found. But Miller's quest was not only going to kill our lives, it was going to break us emotionally and mentally, like Charley. Which Schneider got broken too. And Andrews, like, you're ruining us by this experience. But if he also didn't have that experience, would he have ever grown up?
No.
Because he just ran away from school. He ran away to go on this joyride.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I mean, he would have in his own way in Boston if he would have stayed in Boston, but
I don't know. There's plenty of adults who never grow up.
that's true. Yeah. I kind of liked Andrews at the end. I didn't have as big a problem with you as you did with him at the beginning because I thought that he was just this naive kid. I don't think that he was looking for something unrealistic necessarily. You know, I just think that he kind of got in over his head a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that he was trusting to Miller because I think he was kind of, I've not done this before. I'm just kind of along for the ride type of thing. And then you could start to see his character change through he was making decisions instead of him just going along with them, he would kind of step in and say, I think that we should do this or that, you know, so.
You had on here that it was reminiscent of Mooney Wright's Livestock and 100. I thought the same thing, that this reminded me of Mooney Wright's Livestock Drive where he lost everything. And you've obviously read a lot more Westerns than I have. Is that a common trope in Westerns?
Well, we just finished reading Shane in my juniors class, and in that one, I don't know that there's a loss of everything. They lose Shane, which to Bob, Shane is everything, so maybe so. I don't want to spoil Warlock because you're reading Warlock right now. In Train Dreams, which is kind of like set in the 20s, which I thought was kind of cool. He loses his wife and kid, you know, and there's that, what do I do now? I'm trying to talk these out loud. In The Shootist, he's got prostate cancer and he knows he's going to die. So he's like staying in this place to basically live his life out.
Which I don't know that Ely's book is a Western in a true sense, but Mooney Wright goes on this livestock drive at the end and loses everything. They've achieved in Butcher's Crossing stacks and stacks of the buffalo skins, and they're bringing them down, lose everything at the end. I didn't know if there's like some kind of we've achieved everything and then you lose it all at one time. You also bring up that it's like reminiscent of Moses looking into Canaan. But Moses also never got to set foot into that promised land, right?
But in a sense, though, does that not make you feel like he lost everything? He did all of that work,
right,
and lost his temper. Which, I mean, you know, we don't know everything that Moses and God had, I guess, bickered about to each other. But he essentially loses his temper and doesn't do exactly what he's told, and that's when it's like, okay, go up here and look. You can see, but you're not going there.
Right.
Yeah. So he did have a lot. I feel like it would, if it were me. And I were Moses, I would be very humbled quickly, right? But also be like, I just did everything to not get what I came here for. Yeah.
But Moses also goes through that same kind of transformation experience by being the rich prince and in his own way naive about who he is, and now has to lose everything, go on this experience, and become a completely different, I don't want to say sadder and wiser, but toughened up. In way, losing your innocence by losing your naivete.
Yeah. Well, he has to be a leader that he didn't want to be.
Right.
And through those years of wandering in the wilderness, he became this hardened, grumpy old man, essentially. Yeah. I think one thing, we're talking about the snowstorm and how to read like a professor. He talks about how snow is an indicator of change.
Yeah.
So that's why I'd put on there, the changes in the characters due to the winter storm has been interesting because I put Charley Hoge has slipped into being a near mute because remember he stopped talking.
Right.
I know his lines of dialogue have all but vanished. And then I was really surprised that they put him in charge to lead the wagon out because he was like non-responding to anyone.
Yeah.
Schneider has turned almost primeval because he was speaking to himself. Sometimes it describes him that his speaking is hurried and indiscernible. They couldn't understand what he's saying. He was just kind of like gibbering to himself. And then at the river down the mountain, it talks about how he slithers up to the river and like dunks his head in like a beast. I got Miller has become a heightened version of what he originally was. Of all the men, he has thrived. He is almost it's almost like he has been waiting for this moment his entire life. And then I put Andrews has become a man. He's not the Harvard College boy. He's become someone who can hold his own now.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought that was cool how really after that snowstorm, everyone had shifted. Not just our protagonist, but all of our characters have shifted.
I know I'd remembered bringing that up. I keep thinking Julius Caesar because it's what's on my plate right now. But in Act 1, at the end of Act 1, there's a great storm that shakes Rome. And in Shakespeare's time, the worldview was that if there's chaos in nature around you, it's because there's chaos in society. And storms reflect great upheavals of change. And we've had 2 storms hit our area in the last 2 weeks, and it's dropped trees in my area. There's always like some devastating change. And it's weird to look at my yard now because I always know where these big trees are. And this summer when I mow my yard, it's going to look so different. Storms always leave change in their wake. And these men are forever changed, especially after that moment. They were certainly on the path to change, but that storm.
Yeah, that is ultimately what.
Yeah.
It kind of does still remind me of Mooney Wright's Pig Run because the storm is what ended that.
Yep.
But what changed for those with that was Tinkler's attitude towards Mooney, because when they get back, that's when Tinkler's like, if you want my house, he finally accepts him, because he was so against him.
Yeah.
And then he accepts him after the pig run in the storm, and he's like, you can have my house. I'm about to die. You can have my house.
Yeah.
So I guess there was a change in that too.
Well, doesn't even Mooney think about giving up and maybe we should move? Like, it's not viable to move. We're rooted here. But doesn't even contemplate it. Like, I guess this is not going to work.
Was it Mooney or Tinkler that thought that? I can't remember.
Part of me was thinking that it was Mooney and Lori who were thinking, well, maybe we do need to move.
I can't remember. Because I feel like Tinkler was kind of like, this experiment didn't work.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be this utopia for me, and it's not worked out. And so it's time for me to part ways. That's kind of how I remember it. Maybe I'm wrong.
Storms.
Storms.
Is there a storm in Warlock? Probably not.
I can't remember. I can't remember. There's an explosion. Well, that was something that I talked to the kids about too when we were reading Shane. Is Bob is the narrator and it's in first person, and every chapter he starts off describing the weather. It's a beautiful day.
You're right.
It's a beautiful day, and then he would be like, "Well, the storm was coming," or I was trying to get them to pay attention to because that's what those projects are up on the board was, is he an unreliable narrator? Well, ultimately we decided that he wasn't, because one example I gave them was somebody had just gotten killed. And then the next chapter, Bob's like, it's such a beautiful day today. Just a typical, but then he was like, but there's a chill coming down off the mountain. And I was like, okay, we need to pay attention to this.
That's good.
Bob doesn't say, Bob doesn't understand that the chill is leading to something, but your author's still trying to say through this unreliable narrator that there are bad things coming on the way,
Fitzgerald uses a similar kind of thing in Gatsby when the tension is really ratcheting up to that afternoon at the end of the summer when they're having the party with Nick, Jordan, Daisy, Gatsby. They're all there. And it's heat. The intense heat is just building until it breaks. But that's really just intensifying this tension between them.
Well, even the scene where Daisy comes over and it's raining, and then all of a sudden, what does he say? Oh, look, the sun's shining.
Yeah. But he can't see the green light anymore because now he's got Daisy. It's over there somewhere. I can't see it. In Lord of the Flies, there's a terrible storm and the same kind of ratcheting up of heat and pressure, because the tension between the boys is building into their eruption when they finally murder one of the other boys too. And then that night, the storm carries the pilot off the mountain and he's never seen again. And the next day, it's back to being sunny Paradise Island, but nobody's ever going to be the same because it's not just because of the storm that came over, but because of the metaphorical storm that erupted between all of them.
Well, not to spoil it, because I hope you read it very soon, but in Their Eyes Were Watching God, the big hurricane rolls through, and that changes Tea Cake's character, her true love, Janie's true love. They have a hurricane, and that changes Tea Cake I'm not going to say for the better or for worse, but
Okay.
yeah, there's a big change that happens after that hurricane. So that was a good book. You need to read it.
Okay.
I feel like I've been dictating to you, like, you need to read this and this and
But
this.
if you don't, I miss out on all of these good reads.
It was good. It was good.
Butcher's Crossing is not a book I would have picked up off the shelf.
Yeah.
And neither is Warlock, neither is any of John Ely's work. So if you weren't recommending and telling me read these books, I would have missed out on this broader perspective.
Maybe Nathan's right. Maybe I am. No, let's just read what I want to read.
But I need to be broken out of just always reading horror, fantasy, whatever. Horror, fantasy, sci-fi. Those are my three go-tos. But I also love Westerns. I love it.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this was an example of one that's been really done well.
Yeah.
Because I think it was beautifully written.
Have you ever read any of Lonesome Dove or anything like that?
I've not read Lonesome Dove. I've got Elmore Leonard. I've got an anthology of his, which he wrote 310 to Yuma. And I mean, some of that stuff's okay.
Okay.
310 to Yuma is pretty good. Leonard wrote a book called Ombre, which is, it's not as deep as this, but it's good.
Ombre.
Yeah. It's worth reading if you like Westerns. I think it's a novella, so you could probably tackle it pretty quick. But
my dad always liked Westerns when I was a kid, and I was always like, that looks so boring. And Grandpa always liked watching Westerns on TV, and I thought, oh, that's so boring. But then what have I grown up to like? Like a lot of my sci-fi and fantasy and everything, I mean, if you look at it through the right lens, that's also a Western.
Yeah.
I mean,
The Mandalorian is a Western.
100%.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite video games is Fallout New Vegas, and that's basically a sci-fi Western. There is another book that I keep thinking back to, and it is, in my gut, it is the perfect blend of like sci-fi or fantasy and Western. And I've been meaning to tell you about it. I've forgotten the name of it right now, but I think it's such a great blend.
Cowboys and Aliens.
That's what it was. This is another shameful thing. I was trying to think of... It was this book I had wanted to write years ago, and it was basically Cowboys, Wizards, and Aliens.
Oh, yeah. And when the movie came out, were you like, oh, wait a minute?
I was just like, I can't write that. April and I went to Dragon Con a couple of times in Atlanta, and before it got way too big to even want to go to. And when you sign up, like you're signing up for your credentials that you wear around all weekend, and on your pass, like it even let you come up with a nickname. And mine, I wrote down, I told her, call me Honcho. So whenever I went to Dragon Con, I always went as Honcho. I don't even know why. I didn't love Westerns or anything then, but Honcho.
My assistant soccer coach the last year I coached made me a sweatshirt, and on my thing here it says Huge Honcho Hasted. I'll have to wear it one day. I was like, why did you even make this? He said, that's how I have you in on my phone is Huge Honcho Hasted.
Huge Honcho.
Do you have anything that you want to talk about?
I really liked it. Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about this if it's okay with you, if I can find it. This is a quote that I wrote down. I put, in the spaces between the huge trunks were only other trunks and others, on, until the few trees that he could see merged into an image of denseness, impenetrable and dark, compounded of tree and shadow and lightless earth where no foot had been. And I can remember reading pieces like that thinking, man, this is good stuff.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know that there was ever a point where I think that he was slow to get to where we were going, but I don't think that there was ever a point where I thought, this is not good writing.
No. And I wanted to bring that back from my synopsis at the beginning of the stark writing choices that were through here. I kept thinking, okay, what does Haston really like about the literary writing to this? Or what does he really like about the style of it? And I didn't ever feel like, oh, this is subpar, or this is potato chips. It never felt that way. But it also never felt like overcooked or overdone writing either. What do we call it? Purple prose. It never felt like anything that was just superfluous too. It was gritty, but also, like I'd said before, I just kind of fell through the page into reading these people. I don't know that I felt that way at first.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was any fault of Williams's. I was just spending some pages getting to know the characters and where we were. But once they were out of town and on the trip and now things are going wrong, I fell through, and the writing just took you there.
So you're reading Warlock, and I think that it's similar in it takes us a kind of a slow start to get where we're going, but once we've got that momentum,
the billion characters that you got to,
Oakley Hall is, I think there's some, you were talking about how sometimes it feels generic Western, and I agree with that. Warlock does.
Oh, it just made me think that there were it reminded me of 1950s Westerns.
Yeah. I think that there are definitely elements of that, but I do think that there are some times where when you sit and really look at how, I think for me with Oakley Hall, it was more with the characters, how rich they were, how this setting was, it was created by him, but felt so real. And I know he based it off of things, but to me, that was like he made these characters in this place feel so alive, you know. And there are moments where you are thinking like, "Oh man, I'm really connected to this character right now."
Yeah.
You know, I just think that there is just really good writing in some of these, and they get over. I think they do get overlooked because you were talking about westerns, and we've talked about how they can be cheap. And I guess all this kind of wraps into the historical fiction category, you know. I just think sometimes some of this stuff gets overlooked because of that, but it's just really good stuff.
There would be passages from his dunking himself in the river, the being stranded during the snowstorm, the image of Miller at the end burning the stack, his spending the nights with Francine. I'm just thinking of scenes that I thought those are really good scenes of writing that I would introduce in the classroom and say, let's talk about style of writing, like where we compare this to a passage from Faulkner or this to a passage from.
I think when he also finds McDonald in that like abandoned like the bunkhouse type thing, and the way he kind of describes him like hunkered in the corner like some kind of creature.
Hunched,
I thought that was really good too.
Agreed.
There was just a lot of it. I thought, man, he's really spinning some stuff here. It's good.
Everybody's broken by the end of this, right? Like even Francine, who was just left on the bed, she's almost left corpse-like there on the bed. She's just left asleep.
Well, I mean, even when he gets back, she's still not who she was before.
Yeah. So nobody's way better off by
man. Tragedy. Tragedy. Dang.
Yeah.
So is this something you would teach for AP?
Again, I don't know that I would have a problem with it. I feel like I'm yearning to teach Their Eyes Were Watching God. And so I definitely want to slot that in somewhere. I like the idea of using somebody like Ely or Williams here with writing. There's just so much good writing to use out there. And we never get a snapshot of Western. Like, why not?
I mean, it's the American story.
Right?
Yeah.
I could see this fitting in with summer reading because, again, it's something to tide you over during the summer and then be able to have conversations like this about development of character, vision, American dream, style.
Do you think your sophomore honors, do you think it would be something for them?
No.
It's a little over their head, maybe.
I feel like if they gave it a shot, they would like it. But so often at the sophomore level, I hear complaints of, oh, this was boring or whatever. The one that we used this past summer was Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. And I feel like Van Pelt's going to hear me at some point on the internet. I do not mean to be dogging that book. I was shocked by how many kids really did like it because I thought, it's not that deep or anything. But there were plenty of kids who really did like it, and I just felt like, okay, but it doesn't have deep transformative character. Beyond that, it doesn't really have a deep style of writing or what we've said here, a stark scenes of writing. I didn't feel gripping character development in Remarkably Bright Creatures like I have in some of these. So I feel like if they gave it a shot, they would like it more than they had believed. But that's a hill to get over.
It's hard, isn't it?
Maybe if I wrangled them up and said we're going to go on a buffalo hunt and then I stranded them for a month.
You came in with like a buffalo head on?
Freshly chopped off.
No, we could reenact the wagon scene. You'd be like, hey, Hastings really pumped. I could bring in like sausage biscuits. He's wanting to get to know you guys. He's bringing in like a wagon full of sausage biscuits, and I come in and I don't know. what could happen.
That would be the thing, though, if I had like made them have to like tough it out all summer and they're just exhausted. And it's like, fine, we're going back into town. There's that wagon. And then we take it away from them and just crash it and set it on fire and say, that's the end of the story.
Are you better or worse?
Welcome to sophomore year.
All right.
What did you rate this?
Okay. I rated it a 5 stars.
Nice.
Yeah, I did. It was slow to begin with, and there were times throughout the journey that I was honestly kind of disappointed. Like, I thought that this was good writing, but I'd read all the reviews and read the articles from past authors, and they had talked about how great Williams' writing was and how great the story was, and I did think the writing was great, but I was just kind of like, there's not really been any consequence so far, you know? And we talk about that a lot, but I didn't think it was complex because of that, you know? And then I think for me, when that log came through and took everything, that was when that completely transformed. I know I'd put in the notes, like, what does that say about me as a person? But to me, it was just like, it made sense. Does that make sense? Yeah. It made sense. Once that happened, I thought, okay, you have brought me along to bring me to this point, and I fell for it, hook, line, and I think to me that's what changed it, is because we're both sitting here talking about how did we not see this coming? But Williams duped us. His writing got us. It really did. You know, his writing, he did a good job and wrote it to where we fell for it. And when that happened, we both were just like, oh, man, we were there on the riverbank watching that. I felt like I was there, you know? Yeah. And so for me, it turned into a 5 stars once that happened. Even with him leaving Francine, I think the good part of me wanted them to end up together to find happiness. Oh. But I was glad that
never imagined
I was just
them.
glad he left. Yeah. You know, it was one of those things like we've talked about before. That was probably the darker option, but that's how it should have ended. You know, the juniors were upset with the way Shane ended, but I kept asking them like, well, that's fine. How would you have wanted it to end? Like, let's think of a realistic ending, and we couldn't really come up with one, you know? So how could it have ended with him and Francine? Yes, but would that have been what it should have been? No. Yeah. So it was a 5 stars for me. What about 1 to 5 for you?
It was a 4 for me because we're not doing decimal points on this one. It was a 4 for me.
That's coming next.
That's coming next. It was definitely a 4 for me. I think at first I was like, okay, this is 3 stars. But once they were on the trail, there were so many things that I just found myself engaged with. Mm-hmm. For me, it was also those scenes of the blood and the cleaning, my anger at Miller for just eradicating something beautiful. Being stranded in the storm and the experience coming back down and just the utter loss at the end. I never anticipated that he and Francine might stay together. I also never expected like that should even be a twist by the end. Yeah. I was not at all surprised. I feel like that he left her.
I didn't think she'd be there when he got back because he was looking for her. I didn't think that she'd be there. So when he did find her, I think I was kind of hoping, okay, this is where he's going to end happy. But then you could tell after the first couple encounters that it was not clicking. Yeah. I think you could tell that he was kind of thinking this isn't going to work out. So
for me, I feel like this is a book that I definitely want to read again. And I want to read, part of me wants to read it again sooner rather than later. Mm-hmm. But I want to read it again so that I read it with the set of eyes, knowing what I'm getting into. It's like those movies you love to watch, and you want somebody else to watch it with you, so you can be like, now notice this, and then
so you are teaching it in AP,
and you always notice things that you didn't notice on the first watch through. And the more you've watched Lord of the Rings, now all these tiny details.
This is where he breaks his toe,
right? Yeah. Watch that log. He's going to hit him in the head. I want to reread it again, and maybe I should wait a while so that I reread it knowing it, but have had a chance to be removed from the text. But yeah, I feel like it's a 4 for me. On your psycho scale, where are you?
I gave it a 17, so like a low 4, right?
Yeah. Okay, so 17's a low 4.
I mean, low 5. I'm sorry, that's a low 5. I'm sorry.
I was going to say
16 would be like the top of a 4.
Okay, because I was at 15, 16, somewhere for that.
Okay, yeah. So we're close. Yeah. How much did you pay for it at McKay's?
How much would I have paid for this at McKay's? I'm a sucker for buying things at McKay's, and I I really don't. If it's a book I love, I don't mind paying a lot for it at McKay's. I just don't. My gut tells me I would have picked this up off the shelf and spent $7 to $10 on it and been like, okay, yeah.
I think that's where I'm at. I was thinking like $6.57. So
yeah, that's where I want to find it, or I expect to find it. But if they had it on the shelf for $10, would you buy it?
I think I would.
Yeah, me too.
I think I would.
What if it was in hardback?
Oh man, hardback. Well, I think because Aubrey was giving me a hard time about my cowboy books because I really hit a string of some, and because I was like, why don't you try Butcher's Crossing? We'll read it together. I told her you were reading it, and she looked at it on Amazon and said something, and I go, look at that hardback price, and I think it's like $2,500.
You're kidding me.
Mm-mm. I'll see if I can pull it up really quick. So,
I thought you were going to say $25, so I was like, okay, so what?
No, it was like $2,500. Yeah, I'll see if I can find it really quick.
Jeez, Pete. What is it, like a first edition that he signed or something?
I just think they're, these New York Reader series, like the Warlock and that, Warlock and
it's also
Landbreakers. Yeah. I think that they're just like republished that are kind of rare books, and so these hardbacks are
wow.
Really,
Okay.
I don't think it's going to pull up for me, but
how lucky we are to find them then.
I know. We bought it for $15, or I got it. It was $15. Yeah. $1,200. It's $1,200.
Gee whiz.
Yeah. So look at that cover though.
That's crazy. What was it? Only like a one-time printing?
I don't know. I don't know. I've thought about though getting that New York Reader series, like I've done my Bond books.
Yeah.
Because I like the way their covers look.
What if you did just find it naturally as a hardback though? What would your gut tell you would want to pay for the hardback of it?
I don't know. Probably like $25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be willing. I feel like 25 would be my limit, though.
McKay's, yeah. I might pay for it 25 on Amazon, but at McKay's, I would expect it to be a little bit cheaper than that. Probably like a 17, 18.
That's what I was going to say, 17, 18.
Yeah. What if our Psycho score lined up with what we would pay for it as a hardback at McKay's? That would be kind of weird. It's a psychological experiment all along.
You're going to do a podcast about this with Mary Beth, right? For the movie version.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay,
I didn't think she would watch it, but then I told her I'd watch it because I was going to do it with Raj, and she was upset. And so I was like, well, I mean, we can watch it.
Good.
Yeah, so.
Well, then I'm going to wait to hear your rental or buy score from that because I want to know what that is too. I was hoping for more, I think, from the movie, which I haven't seen the movie version of it, but I just feel like this should be an easy one to film and come across with an American story.
Yeah, I know I told you that. With the movie, I was disappointed because I thought that this could have been really great. And it was supposed to be artistic, I had read, and I liked that. One of my favorite Bonds that Daniel Craig did was Quantum of Solace, and it's like the artsy Bond, and I liked it because of that. It was different, And so I thought, I'm gonna like this, but it just didn't. I don't know. It really fell flat.
There were so many times that this reminded me. This sounds so dumb. There were so many times that in the reading of it, I was reminded of Kevin Costner's Dances with Wolves, which you have an American who is yearning to go out west and see this thing before it's gone, only to get caught up in what's really going on, and what does it really mean to be my American military presence out here. But I also feel like while I loved Dances with Wolves in the 90s, and I think I still love if I watch it now, with Wolves, I don't know. It just feels like a different – it feels like an untrue story to watch in 2025. Yeah. I feel like I'm much more jaded as an American now, and to watch something like that feels naive in a way. But I also yearn for it. I yearn to be back in the 90s watching some of these.
Yeah. I think for me – when you read these Westerns and they're so raw, like the ones that are really well done, it's hard for me to go back to those.
Hey, if you're a fan of good conversations and fresh takes on literature and the kind of school stories that stick with you long after the bell rings, well, I've got a podcast for you. It's called With Honors, and it's where my high school students have taken the microphone, not just to analyze books or talk about our lessons, but to reflect on what we've learned this year, have conversations about what surprised them, how our literature and classroom experiences connect to their real lives. And we talk about everything from symbolism and Poe to the pros and cons of class pets, and all through the voices of smart, curious students who have learned to speak their minds. New episodes drop regularly every week, and everyone is a snapshot of what it looks like when students take ownership of their own learning and have a little fun while they're at it. You can find With Honors on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and our YouTube channel, so check them out.